Could Trump rekindle diplomacy with North Korea? I would say a whopping huge yes. Now that North Korea dictator Kim Jong-un has a Russian dance partner that's actually delivers for him, will U.S. President-elect Donald Trump be able to rekindle the bromance between Washington and Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, that flamed out in Hanoi in 2019? Among the many questions surrounding the future foreign policy of a second Trump term, from the fate of NATO and Ukraine and Gaza to the inevitable global trade wars, this one stands out. Will Trump again send love letters, quote unquote, to Kim Jong-un in the hopes of sealing a grand bargain that could put U.S.-North Korean relations on a different footing? And if so, what possible bargain is that? Or if conditions have changed so much in the past 5 years that fresh symmetry is off the table, what happens to the Korean Peninsula and the northeast of Asia? The biggest difference on the North Korean side is that Kim has a relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and that he has long wanted with China, said Victor Cha, the Korea chair at the Center for International and Strategic Studies. That was not the case before, when Kim put all their eggs in the summit basket, and that was a huge failure. Kim's North Korea has also grown in capacity, not just confidence, with new backers, making it even harder for any U.S. administration to offer minimal inducements to coax concessions out of North Korea. There is so much that has changed in the past 5 years. We don't just pick up where we left off. If any Trump administration people think they can just reoffer what they offered at Hanoi, their calculus is wrong, said Jenny Town, the director of North Korea program at the Stimson Center. North Korea has made significant advances in developing weapons of mass destruction, and geopolitical trends are working in their favor. What is clear is that the desperate Kim who met with Trump years ago is not the confident, well-supported Kim of today. For more than 2 years, North Korea has provided Russia with much-needed munitions to wage against Ukraine. For the last month, elite troops as well in the mix. Now, the Kim that sought breadcrumbs, carrots, and sanctions from relief from the West when he met with Trump the last time is not the Kim of today. But Kim is also different in other ways. The decades of North Korean willingness to trade nuclear weapons for U.S. recognition, normalization, and sanctions relief are a thing of the past. What had been since at least 1990, the starting point for U.S.-North Korean relations has been buried under the avalanche of rancor since 2019, belligerent words from Kim since 2022, and certainly dusted under the shifting fortifications and wrecked rails of the demilitarized zone since. The North Korean position is clear. If they re-engage, it will be on the premise of dropping denuclearization from the agenda, said Scott Snyder, the president and CEO of Korean Economic Institute of America, KEI. But there's also a few things that are clear, or seem to be, about Trump. He believes that he has a good personal relationship with Kim. He likes making deals, likes to think he ends wars, and has never been a fan of underwriting South Korea's security by garrisoning some 28,500 U.S. troops there on the United States dime. So the prospects of yet another Trump-Kim summit are remote, but not impossible. On the Trump side, what is different is that he knows now how government works, and he has said that he wants to end all the wars. I think that also means the Korean War, in a way that he can get U.S. troops out of Korean Peninsula, and said Cha. So talks could happen, but to what end? Kim went to Singapore and then to Hanoi, eager to get relief and, in a roundabout way, security for his regime. He now has both, to an extent, courtesy of Moscow. Russia has run interference on efforts by the United Nations to enforce sanctions on Pyongyang, and is bankrolling and backstoking North Korea all in exchange for a few million shells and a few thousand souls. And he's part, if not entirely parcel, of a growing bloc of anti-Western countries that are actively seeking to create an alternative to the US-led order, with ways to evade the long arm of US sanctions being the mortar of the expanding BRICS group. The United States under Trump could offer tacit recognition of North Korea's status as a de facto nuclear power. Pyongyang's 50-plus nuclear warheads, plus the rockets delivered them, and which already exist. What has not existed until now is a willingness in Washington to accept the fact that Trump might be willing to. Less clear is whether those around him who do prioritize U.S. security interests in Asia will do the same, let alone the bulk of U.S. security establishment that remains committed to nuclear non-proliferation. But Trump could offer a lesser olive branch to rekindle the relationship. Kim has railed against U.S. South Korea joint military exercises for years, only slightly less vehemently than Trump has. Those could be the first to go. U.S. troops could follow, or Trump could accept Kim's transformation of the demilitarized zone, the no man's land between North and South Korea, that marks the armistice of the last war, but could spark the next as a cost of doing business. I think what could happen is that Trump makes all the right noises about the U.S. alliance with South Korea, but does not want to pay for a military exercise. That could be one of the first things to watch for, Cha said. And one of the big questions is what effect Trump's other big promised diplomatic overture, ending Russia's war in Ukraine, would have on the situation in Northeast Asia. For some observers, the recently deepening ties between Russia and North Korea are fruit of that Russian dependence on North Korean arms, and an end to the war could spell an end of that affair. Now, for others, links between North Korea and Russia were not so much forged in the front lines of Kursk in Russia, Ukraine, as marketed there. The shared interests between North Korea and Russia go beyond military expediency and encompass a vision of a new world with alternatives to the dollar, answers to U.S. hegemony, and a role for the also-rans. The terms of this year's mutual defense pact between the two countries are not reek of a marriage of convenience. Now, for much of the world, having two sovereign states in the Korean Peninsula might not be news, but for South Korea, such a situation with such a constellation against it, both from friends and foes, raises serious questions about the reliability of its security umbrella. For years, lawmakers in South Korea have talked about getting their own nuclear deterrent. Some 74 years ago, a U.S. Secretary of State left South Korea out of that U.S. security perimeter, and almost by oversight, Seoul, South Korea, that is not anxious for a sequel. Trump has shown that he can end wars, though the end games have been messy. Seoul is watching to see if and how their long war might end and what it might mean for them. You could end up in the situation where there is a so-called peace deal. They end the Korean War and both sides are nuclear, especially if Trump pulls out U.S. troops, Cha said. You could have a bizarre situation. This is from Foreign Policy on DNYUZ. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.